Oh, it's my pleasure to be sitting here with Brian Reidy. He was a Kiwi from 1959 to 1966, 21 tests, 34 tries overall in your career, Brian. Hails from the Marist Club in Auckland, of course. Was selected for the 1959 Tour of Australia and then the 1961 Tour of England and France. Member of the Kiwis Association for a number of years and also on the New Zealand Rugby League Museum Committee, and awarded the life membership of New Zealand Rugby League, the highest accolade that can be bestowed upon anybody in New Zealand League. So Brian, I suppose the first place to start is where did you get your first start in rugby league?
The first start in rugby league was, I lived in Point Chevalier and went to the local convent there, and one of the persons there said, "Do you want to play rugby league?" I had no idea what he was talking about. I said yes, and went from there.
In a convent?
Yes.
Yeah, in a convent. So who inspired you? Who was more or less the inspiration behind you wanting to take it up? Was it the school itself, or was it something?
It wasn't the school itself. It was a gentleman who belonged to the church up there, and he was tied up with the Marist Club.
Okay.
And he must have looked alike or liked the look of me, and decided I'd go to training one night and went from there.
What about any particular game of rugby league that you saw as a young fellow and you've sat back and thought, by crikey, I'd love to be part of that sport? Is there anything that stands out in your mind?
Yeah, well, I suppose it would be when tests were on at Carwell Park, and I think I can recall watching the 1951 French side that was out here, and they had a fullback called Puigobert, and I think it went from there. And yes, that was something that I always remember.
What about some Kiwis that you went and watched at Carwell Park?
There was plenty of Kiwis I went and watched, and I think all of them were fans of mine, and it was something I followed from there on.
When you started playing the game here in Auckland, what sort of support did the game itself have?
Actually, where I came from, Point Chevalier, and Point Chevalier was quite a strong rugby league suburb, and many of the suburbs around did have league teams, and it was quite popular.
Yep. And what about the overall support of the game in Auckland as a whole?
The support down at Carwell Park was very good, actually, and every Saturday afternoon was a day at Carwell Park after you'd played in the morning. Yeah,
and internationals, of course, International League, that was booming along at the time?
It was too. They had teams touring from Australia, from England and France, and going to test matches was a big thing.
Memorable time, of course, your first game for New Zealand in the black and white of the Kiwis. What can you tell us about that? Fantastic occasion.
It was back in 1959. I was selected at that stage as a fullback for the Kiwis, and I think my first game was in one of the country areas in Australia, and it's something I do remember, and it was a different style of football and a different level of football to club football that I've been used to.
And what about the emotions of putting on that jersey for the first time? How did that feel?
It felt great, yeah, and I sort of look back now and think, we're rather fortunate to have done it.
And who presented you with your first test jersey, was it?
We didn't have a presentation those days, so we were just went along to the game, got our jersey and went from there.
Sitting in that changing room, your first test, you've got your test jersey on, who's in that room with you, the people that you played with?
There was Don Hammond, Billy Snowden, Gary Phillips, Neville Denton, quite a few players of that time, and we had a good side. Yeah.
Speedy Reidy, where did that come from? You're obviously a bit of a quickster in your day.
I was doing a lot of running at the Western Suburbs Running Club, and I'm not sure where the name Speedy came from, but or who actually gave it to me, but it stuck right through, and even today, I was recently over in Australia, and the next thing I hear a voice from the wilderness, "Hi Speedy," and turned around, it was Graham Farrer, who I toured with, so yeah.
You've had many wonderful occasions in the Kiwi jersey, but I'd have to mention one that stands out for me, 1963, 3 tries against Australia. Great occasion there.
It was, and I certainly remember that, and whilst it was 3 tries, it should have been 5. I actually dropped the ball for my 4th.
You shouldn't be telling us that.
And the 5th try, that I went for, I dived for the line and got taken out by Ken Thornett, and who was the fullback at the time.
Wow.
Took me off right across the line and out to it.
What about the first try?
I can remember that. Yeah.
Talk us through that.
Well, I was marking. I forget who I was marking now, but it was great to get it. And that particular day, the team played well, and I had some good centres inside me, Roger Bailey and Graham Kennedy, and they were good to play outside of. So yeah, it was a team effort.
Yeah, yeah. You know, we just spoke about the emotions of that first Test jersey. You decided to give up the game. Very emotional time. Any particular reason why you decided to give up the game?
And I think back then you were expected to retire around about 27, 28, and you know, today players can go on to their mid-30s, late 30s, but it wasn't encouraged in those days, and I think that was one of the reasons that everyone just sort of finished up.
So you must have known you were playing your last game in the Kiwi jersey. You're lacing up the boots for the last time. You know, how did that feel for you personally?
I suppose some relief in some ways that I can now sort of relax and watch the game rather than play it. But I think at that point too, I'd had a few knee injuries, and so that sort of helped make the decision easier. Yeah.
Well, and that probably is a good question. Next to Brian is the fitness levels today. You know, are remarkably. You know, they're all technologically based and all that. The fitness levels in your day comparative today, it must be quite considerable.
They were. I think today, I mean, some people say to me they try and compare players today from yesterday. You cannot do it. And the players today are fitter, their bodies are bigger. I mean, I played at, most of my Test matches, or most of my career, at under 11 stone, which today would be not likely.
What was your training regime like then? What, you know, if you Kiwi Tests coming up on the Saturday, you're training during the week. What would you do?
Training during the week would start a week early, and we would train every day, and perhaps have the day off before the Test match. And,
wow.
And in some cases, it was overtraining because we were flogged, and you know, you go to the Test match on the Saturday, and the next thing you're starting to feel a few aches and pains. But certainly different to what it is today.
Absolutely. So just going on those injuries, and you mentioned about your knees there before, Brian, but and once again comparing today what they've got available for the injuries, but in your day totally different.
Oh, totally.
So your injuries to your knees. Any other injuries that?
I was very lucky. I had muscular injuries, but you never told the coach or you never told the manager you hit it, and which was the worst thing to do. And in fact, I can remember going to a physiotherapist or a chiropractor on the quiet,
yes,
so that they didn't hear about it, and if they did,
which would be unheard of today. So incidents, and I'm not just talking about on the field here, and you know, some stuff that you could share with us that wouldn't have made the media in those days. And I'm not asking you to divulge too much of what happens on tour stays on tour, but anything that stands out for you that really will go with you for the rest of your life.
I suppose something I do. I mean, teams today can go away 13, 15 players. They can have 12 managers or 12 people assisting.
Yep.
We toured England and France for 3.5 months. We had 2 managers and a coach.
Yep.
And in Australia we had 1 manager, 1 coach.
Yep.
We had no doctors, no physios, no sort of trainers. It was quite different.
So can I just ask you about then, Brian, the travel in those days? And you just mentioned, I mean, you're not going away for 3 or 4 weeks. You're going away for 3 or 4 months. You know, so it's a considerable amount of time to give up family, to give up work. So that must have been a struggle, and even the logistics of travelling to the UK and France.
Yes, I suppose I was fortunate in some ways. I was single at the time, so I didn't have a problem there with having to look after a wife back here and children, which some of the team did. I had a good employer who stuck with me right through my career, and in fact I was on full pay for most of the tour.
Who was that? Who was your employer?
Guardian Royal Exchange.
Okay.
And that was something unusual in those days. So I was very fortunate there, and I think that was one of the reasons I played for as long as I did, although it was shorter than most players these days.
Well, this is probably a tough one for you, Brian. You know, the teammates that you've had over the years, the players that have stood out for you, I mean, the managers that have stood out for you, the coaches, the trainers, or whoever you've had over the years, both on and off the field, who stands out in your mind?
The coach that stands out in my mind was Bruce Robertson. He didn't coach the Kiwi side. He coached Auckland and he coached the North Island, but he was a very good coach and he had a great manner with players, and he was somebody I responded to anyhow.
Yeah. And the players you've stood alongside and
players,
you've learned from, those sort of players.
I think with the people you played with in those days, like Donny Hammond, Billy Snowden, Jack Fagan, were all still great mates, and I think you do sort of get a closeness there which sticks with you for the rest of your life.
Now, having all that experience, and you've had a marvellous rugby league career, and you're still involved in the game to this very day, knowing what you know now, and you had the opportunity to offer your opinion to the lords of the game, so to speak, any changes that you'd like to see implemented into the game today?
I think there's far too many stoppages, and I think also too much outside influence from what do they call it, the third referee or the TMO or someone like that. I think a lot of that could be improved upon.
Yeah. And just finally, Brian, your rugby league career, is there anything that you would have liked to have done that you didn't achieve playing rugby league, Test rugby league?
No, I think I was very fortunate to play in an era when we toured, which is something they don't do so much these days, the longer tours. And it's a lot of memories that I have which stick with you, and I've enjoyed it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Brian. That's awesome, mate.